Hello everybody, I hope everyone is doing well and welcome back. It's finally time to share with you all of my favorite 2020 makeup products that I've discovered over the course of this year. I have a lot of goodies here that I love so much and that I know are going to be staples in my collection for years to come. 2020 was anything but easy, but at least I have found some really killer products in here and I'm really excited to share them with you guys. So before we get into it, I would love for you to subscribe if you aren't already. It means so much to me, and let's get to it. So I'm going to be going in order of application, so I'm going to start off with my favorite base products. And the first one I wanted to talk about is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is a product I wish I picked up sooner. This is one that was in and out of my cart for years. I think I've been wanting this product for 3+ years and I never picked it up because I was always scared that it was never going to be worth the hype, and I think I thought it was a little too expensive for what it is. But honestly, my mind has completely changed about this product now that I actually have it. This is a product I use on an everyday basis and I feel like my makeup isn't complete without it. You can also use this product in so many different ways, which is amazing. You can use it as an under foundation highlight. That's my favorite way to use it. You can use it as a foundation glow booster, so you can mix it in there with it, or you can use it as an all over foundation. I've seen a couple people do that. I personally cannot pull that off because I just turn into an ornament. My skin is a little bit too oily for that. This product is beautiful. It doesn't have any glitter in it at all. It's just a very natural looking glow. This formula is beautiful. It's nice and thin, so it blends out beautifully with a finger, a brush, or a sponge. I have never run into any issues with this product whatsoever, nor have I had issues with any foundations or anything ever. I actually used this in a different way today. I used it under my foundation as I usually do, and I also used it on top of my foundation as a pre-highlight because I boosted it with something else I'll talk about a little bit later. So I kind of sandwiched my foundation with this product and I love how it turned out. This thing, beautiful. I can rave about this all day. My next favorite I wanted to talk about is the Glossier Future Dew. When I first purchased this, I was really nervous going into it, especially with someone with an oilier skin type. I thought this was going to be a disaster, but it actually was the complete opposite. I completely fell in love with this product. I personally like using this more as a primer, and I don't use this in my skincare routine at all. I like to use 1 pump of this all over my face, and it adds so much hydration, so much dewiness and glow, and it actually plays very well with any other foundation I apply on top of it, which I was shocked about because usually with oilier primers they tend to break up my makeup a lot, but I have never had an issue like that whatsoever with this product. It's so good. So as a person with an oilier skin type, I always steered very far away from these kind of products, but ever since this came into my collection, I cannot get enough of it, and this has converted me, and it's truly so fantastic. Love this stuff. This is a little bit of a random one, and it's very small. Hopefully you can like see it. It looks like a little, I don't even know. This is Freck. This is another product that I refused to purchase for a very long time just because I felt like I could get it with other products like eyeshadows or eyebrow pencils or even self-tanner. But over the course of this year, I ended up purchasing 2 of these. This is the best faux freckle product on the market that I've ever tried. It's so fantastic. It's very long wearing as well, and it's also very user friendly, which is amazing. This is the easiest and best product to achieve natural looking faux freckles. It's great. It's very simple to use. All you need to do is add a few dots to where you want freckles, and then you stamp it with your finger lightly, and that way you get a more natural appearance as well. You get dimension as well as different shapes, and you get more of an organic freckled look as well. Because something that I struggled with in the past when I was trying to do faux freckles on myself, I would naturally just try to make them too symmetrical. It's just like a human nature thing, but with this product it's super easy to make the freckles not perfect circles and you get a more natural stamped look, which is fantastic. Love this stuff. So now I'm going to be talking about my favorite foundation of the year, and there were a few other contenders, but I just recently filmed my top 10 favorite foundation video, so I didn't want to be too redundant. I recommend you watching that if you're looking for a good foundation. But the one that I wore the most this year was the Milani Screen Queen. This foundation is amazing. I find that it performs very similarly to some of my high-end favorites. I personally find this one is very similar to the Guerlain L'Essentiel. It gives a really nice natural glow. It's super easy to work with, and it's never disobeyed me or and it's never failed me. I also find that this one wears beautifully. It's very long wearing. It looks beautiful all day, no matter what primer I use underneath of it or whatever products I layer on top of it. It honestly always looks perfect, and there's nothing like a reliable foundation. Am I right? This one's great. Love it so much. So now I'm going to be talking about my 3 favorite concealers I've discovered over the course of this year. I couldn't choose between them. The first one I wanted to talk about is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Concealer. This is the best full coverage concealer I have ever tried. It has a beautiful, very liquidy gel texture that runs very thin, but it packs a lot of coverage, which is very unique to me. And because of its texture, it never looks cakey under your eyes, which is really rare, at least in my experience. This concealer is the most natural looking full coverage concealer I've personally tried. It's great. I love this for the days that I don't have the best, most restful sleeps. I just use a couple dots under the eye and it just corrects anything going on under there flawlessly. It's great. Highly recommend this stuff. And I love its packaging because it has a really nice glass packaging, but it also makes me really nervous because, you know, I'm very clumsy and I drop it lots, and every time I'm like, uh-oh. Following that one up, this is the Kosas Revealer Concealer. I purchased 2 over the course of this year, one to match my winter skin as well as my summer skin. This concealer is fantastic. I love its consistency. It's very creamy and it runs very thin as well. It almost feels like a serum-y eye cream, which is really nice. So it's super lightweight, and when you blend it out, it feels like it disappears in a good way. It leaves the coverage, but it doesn't leave any heaviness at all. It just leaves a beautiful glowy under eye look. It just leaves behind a very corrected under eye, and it also adds a lot of glow, which I find to be so beautiful. It has a lovely medium coverage. You can definitely build it up or take it down as well, which is great. This is definitely my most worn concealer of the year. It's the one I use on an everyday basis if I'm just doing a little quick makeup, or I'll use it on my more glam days as well. It's great. The last concealer I wanted to talk about is the Rare Beauty Concealer. I love how customizable this one is. You can get anything between a super light coverage or a full coverage look using this, and no matter how much you build it up, you always get a super smooth and a noticeable look with it, which is very rare. Rare. I love how unnoticeable and undetectable this one is. This one is also my go-to if I want to do some spot concealing over my face. I find that it's the perfect consistency to do so. It's not too liquidy, so it doesn't disappear all over your face, and it's not too thick where it's going to accentuate any of your problem areas that you're trying to correct. It's fantastic and I love it so much. My last product in the base category is a powder, and this is the Pat McGrath Labs Skin Fetish Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder. This is a perfect product if you're someone like me who mostly uses powder right under the eyes and you don't tend to set all over your face. This one is fantastic. This is the softest pressed powder I have ever felt, and it does an incredible job at blurring your under eyes. It smoothens everything out and it locks things in place under there so well. And I love how a tiny bit of it goes a super long way, which is great because this isn't the biggest compact, but it's perfect for the under eye area. 95% of the time, I'll only use a touch of powder under my eyes so my concealer doesn't crease into my finer lines right under my eyes right here. This is definitely my everyday go-to powder. It's fantastic. So now I'm going to be getting into my favorite bronzers of the year. I have 4 here that I'm going to be talking about. The first one was a sneaky one. This is the Quo Beauty bronzing powder. I really wasn't sure about this at first. It wasn't my favorite. Then I started realizing how much I was actually reaching for it on a daily basis. This is a very pigmented bronzer, so beware if you tend to be very heavy-handed. But the reason why I love this one so much is that it diffuses very easily, and it gives more of an intense bronzing look, which I really loved over the summer. I love reaching for this one when I'm doing heavier eye looks and I need to balance out the rest of my face so that it just works. Surprisingly, this one works for me all year round as well, just because it has more of a neutral undertone. It's not too cool nor too warm, so it just fits at all times of the year, which is really great. So this is a fantastic bronzer for my fellow Canadians. I know this isn't available in the States as of now. I don't know if that's going to change or not. The next bronzer I want to talk about is the Nabla Skin Bronzing Sun-Kissed Effect Bronzing Powder. I love this one. The 2 shades that I use are Dune and Ambra. I'm wearing the shade Ambra today. This is a super unique formula. This is the most cream-like bronzing powder I have ever tried. When it's on your face, it just truly looks like a cream, which I love. It has this beautiful sheen that runs through it. It doesn't have any glitter or any pearlescence running through it at all. It just adds a really glowy look. And I also love this formula because it is a slow builder, so you're able to really control this product, which is great. This is a perfect bronzer if you love the look of creams but you don't like working with them. This is a great one. It builds slowly, diffuses effortlessly, and it also has a really long wearing effect, which I love. The thing I love most about this is its soft satin finish. I think it's so beautiful and very unique. This is a product that I would use more in my everyday looks rather than when I was filming. I don't know why, but I've made a significant dent in this one over here. These are fantastic. Nabla killed it with these types of products. They're fantastic. The next bronzer I wanted to talk about is this Wet n Wild bronzer. I have the shade Sunset Striptease. This one took over my love for the Lila B bronzer. I find this one to be a very good dupe, and I almost find that this one is better. There's not a lot of kickback, so I don't waste a lot of product, and I find that a little bit of this goes a very long way. This is my go-to bronzer if I really want to achieve a summery look. This one is a slow builder as well, and it doesn't have any glitter or any pearlescence running through it, but it just adds a nice sheen, kind of similarly to the Nabla one, but less creamy looking, if that makes any sense. It's the perfect in-between of the two I was just talking about. This one makes for more of a natural appearance. This is one of my drugstore gems. I find that this one performs like high-end products or even better than a lot of high-end products. It's beautiful. And the last bronzer I wanted to talk about is the Fenty Beauty Cheeks Out Freestyle Cream Bronzer. I use the shade 03 Macchiato. I completely fell in love with this bronzing formula. I find it to be very unique. I love how glowy this one is, and I also love how sheer this one is as well, so it gives a very natural aspect to your makeup. This one gives you a super summery look. This product is very easy to work with, and you can build it up as well. Fenty just does an incredible job with their bronzer formulas. The powder bronzer is still one of my favorites. That was in last year's favorite products. So I'm now going to be getting into my favorite highlighters of the year. I have found a couple good ones. I love them. So the first ones I'm going to be talking about are the Rare Beauty Liquid Luminizers. These are the liquid highlighters of my dreams. These combine everything I've been looking for and wanting in a liquid highlighter. It has a super thin, very silky texture that's super easy to apply with any tool or body part, a brush, sponge, or finger to be exact. There's no glitter running through these at all, just a very intense pearlescence. And I love how these eventually set, so you're not left with any tackiness or stickiness. Your hair never sticks to them, which I love. This finish is stunning. It just gives you a super glossy looking sheen, but without the tackiness, which is just very unique in my experience. I love the shade range as well, and I also like mixing a couple shades of them together just to create my own shade. I love these to bits. They're beautiful. The next one is the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Superstar Glow Highlighter. This is a limited edition product that came out with her holiday collection. I love this one so much. It's a really unique powder highlight. It has a very beautiful velvety, almost frothy texture, if that makes any sense. It's not intense at all. It gives a very beautiful diffused soft glow, more on the natural side. With this one, I really love to buff this one into my base. I find that that gives more of a cream-like texture. I'm truly sad that this is limited edition, but I know this is going to remain in my collection for a very long time. Love this. Another powder highlight that I loved is this one from Natasha Denona. It's the I Need a Nude Glow highlight. I was a little hesitant to add this into this video just because I've only had this for a month and a half-ish, I believe. But I went ahead and added this in because this is the same formula as the powder highlight in the tan palette that I love so much and I never shut up about, it feels like. I'm so happy I have this in a component on its own, just because sometimes I don't use the other products. Sometimes I just want to reach for the highlight, and I'm happy I have it in its own separate thing in a slightly different tone too. This powder highlight is the only more intense highlight that I've ever liked on myself. I find that this one just gives a very glowy look without any glitter or any texture enhancing properties. it just looks very flattering. And I love how smooth this consistency is. And when you really buff it, it gets to that creamy point that I never shut up about. I honestly could rave about this highlighter all day, but I have a lot of products in front of me that I need to get through. But I'm so happy she came out with this in a single. And the last one here is going to nicely transition us into my favorite blushes, but this is the Kosas Tropic Equinox Color and Light Cream Duo. I love wearing this on my more natural days as well as my full glam days. I feel like this one suits so many different looks. This highlighter formula is super dreamy. It gives a very balmy, glossy, reflective glow that doesn't shift and melt around your face all day. It just stays in place. I do find it to be a little bit tacky, so if that super bothers you, I would skip out on this. It doesn't bother me at all. I find that the effect of it is way worth it. And now speaking about the blush, I love this shade so much. For me, it's the perfect warm nude shade for my skin tone, and I find that it suits any look. If I'm struggling to find a good blush pairing, this is the one I'll pick up because I know it's going to look good. The texture of the blush super reminds me of the Kara Weiss blushes, so if you're familiar with that one or these ones, they're very similar. I don't find them to be different at all. I really want to check out the other colors in these. I wish I could swatch them to see if I would really like them, but this one is fantastic. And now it's time to get into my favorite blushes. So the first ones I'm going to be talking about are the Tower 28 ones. I think Tower 28 is one of my favorite brand discoveries of this year. These blushes are beautiful. They're very balmy and they give a lot of glow, but at the same time they're super long wearing, which is great. I use these heavily in the summertime, and the first couple of times that I used these, I couldn't get over how well these lasted on my cheeks. A lot of the times cream blushes tend to disappear during the day. It's just a fact of cream blushes, but these ones have an incredible lasting power and the colors are beautiful. The two shades that I use the most are Golden Hour and Magic Hour. One's more of a pinky peachy shade and the other is a more intense corally orange. They're stunning. I highly recommend these, and I really hope to see a shade extension just because I need these in every color imaginable. My next blush favorite is this one from Quo Beauty. This is the one I'm wearing on my cheeks today. This is their Featherweight Cream Blush, and my favorite color is Pure 59. It's a beautiful bronzy color. I love this formula. It's very similar to the Glossier Cloud Paints. As you can see, they took heavy inspiration from them, but I honestly like this formula a little bit more because it does add a lot more glow. I find that the Glossier ones kind of set down to a more matte-ish texture, and these ones give a really nice glowy satin finish, and I find that this one lasts beautifully. I still haven't picked up any other colors. I don't know why. I do know why. It's because I never leave my house. I even order in my groceries now. I haven't left my house in a very long time. That is why I have not yet picked other colors up. But when I leave my house. My next favorite blush was this one from Wet n Wild. This is the shade Mellow Wine. I love this one. It suits so many different seasons. I find that it transitions between them so beautifully. In the summertime on my more tan skin, this pulled a lot more bronzy looking. And I also find in the fall, this suited a lot of my looks I was doing. And now that it's winter, it pulls a different shade out of it. It turns more cranberry. It almost looks like when my cheeks are nipped by the cold. And I love that look so much. I find this one to be very natural pulling, and it's just beautiful. This is the only blush I liked out of this little blush line, just because the other ones sadly have really chunky glitter, whereas this one doesn't. It does have like little random specks of like pearls in it, but those kind of disappear when you blend it on your cheeks. This looks like a matte blush when it's on. Love this very much. It's going to be a staple, and I find that this one performs a lot like the MAC powder blushes. I seriously don't see a difference. My next blush favorite was this Patrick Ta Double Take Cream and Powder Blush in the shade She's So LA. This is the one I ended up using the most out of the two that I picked up. I also picked up the peachier shade, but this is the one I love so much. The tone is definitely a more personal preference. It's the perfect blush when you don't know what blush to pair your look with. It gives more of a bronzy look, which I obviously adore. I also love these formulas on their own or mixed together. My favorite thing about this product is its versatility. You can use either the cream alone or the powder alone, or you can mix them. I think he preferred and recommended you use the cream first, then the powder on top, which was actually very surprising, and not a lot of formulas can pull that off, but this one was built for it, so it works flawlessly. This is one of those products that makes me super excited about makeup. The next ones I want to talk about are the Rare Beauty ones. I have one in each formula, the dewy or the matte. These are the two shades that I love the most. Joy, which is their dewy formula, and Bliss, which is the matte formula. I love using these on their own as well as mixed together just to create more of a satin natural look. I think these are fantastic. I've talked about these so much on my channel and they're just beautiful. They're also extremely pigmented and I love that because it means that it works on so many different skin tones and it's also going to last a very, very long time. So these are just fantastic and the packaging is absolutely adorable. Love these so much and I highly recommend them. I hope that they launch more shades as well. They do have an immaculate shade range already. I love blush so much and I just want more, you know? And I have two other blushes here I'm going to be talking about. The first one is the Cosmetics Heaven Glow Faded Clementine blush. This is one of my highlights of the year. I love the Faded Clementine line and this is my most used product out of all of them. I find this one to be very unique and it's my favorite out of the two that they offer. They have another one that is more peachy with a pink reflect. This one is a beautiful burnt orange with a more yellow undertone rather than red, which I find to be very unique and different. A lot of orange blushes usually pull a little bit more on the red side, so I find this one stands out a ton. And this also has a beautiful golden pearl reflect that just amplifies the glow a lot without enhancing any texture at all. Every time I use this one, it shocks me because it looks a lot more nudie looking, very subdued. But when you actually apply it to your cheeks, there's a lot of pigment that comes out. It's so interesting and I love this thing so much. I've used this countless times. It's one of my go-to blushes if I want to look very summery. And my last blush favorites were the extension shades of the Cosmetics Serum blushes. I personally love these tones a lot more than the original four that they launched. The three that I wear the most are these three right here. My number one favorite out of every single one of them is the Venetian Rose color. Then I would say it's Peachy Peachy, then Cherry Splash, then surprisingly this one. This is the shade Little Lilac. It looks very unwearable, but when you actually place it on your cheeks, it turns out to be a lot more pink and flattering than you'd expect. They're very unlike any other liquid blushes. They truly have that serum texture that's super glowy and thick feeling, but when you apply it to your cheeks, it just gives you a very little wash of color. These ones I found to be a little bit more pigmented than their first four, which I do enjoy. The finish of these is super dewy and very, very glowy. So if you have more of an oily skin type, I don't know if this is going to be your thing because these are very, very dewy. I don't know if they'd work for you. They might make you look too glowy for your liking. I'm not sure though. I do have a more oily skin type and I adore these, but I'm mostly oily in the center of my face and not super on my cheeks. But these are some of my collection staples. I adore these so much. And the bottles are just so cute and adorable and unique. They're so pretty. Okay, now it's time to move on to my favorite eye products of the year. The first one I want to talk about is the Fenty Beauty Eye Primer. This is my favorite eye primer of all time. I have extremely oily eyelids, and this is the only eye primer that has ever helped me with my creasing issue. In the past, I would use a lot of concealers just because I never experienced a good eye primer until now. Using concealer is okay sometimes, but a majority of the time my eyeshadow would crease. So I went out and searched for alternatives. My favorite thing about this eye primer is that it's super waxy, so it creates a really, really good barrier. And a little bit of this goes a very long way. I find that if I apply way too much of this, my eyeshadow creases, so I just like to apply a little in the center, then blend it out with a finger, and that's the perfect amount for me. I haven't had any issues with creasing for a very long time now, so I just wanted to give this product a huge shout out because it has been a game changer. I have a few little potted eyeshadows that I want to talk about. My favorites of the year are the Melt Cosmetics Ultra Matte Gel Liners. They do have another formula that has a shimmer running through them, but I just like the flat matte colors the most, just because I find them to be super versatile and easy to work with, and these are the ones that I reach for the most. They came out with a bunch. There's a few here that are from the Beetlejuice collection, some from the Amore Eterno, and some from their Rust palette. I am so happy that they continue to launch these with their more recent collections, but I love using these as normal eyeliners or even as cream eyeshadows or even as eyeshadow enhancers. So I'll apply them first, then layer other colors on top just to make them pop even more. These are very versatile and I treasure these products so dearly. I love the consistency of this product as well because it's very whipped, and when you're using it, it feels very lightweight, but it packs such a punch, and they glide like no other gel liners I've ever tried. They never do that skipping thing at all. They don't dry down halfway through the process. You do have a lot of working time, but when they do eventually set, they're super matte and they don't budge at all. Some days my eyes are extremely watery, and on those days these don't smudge or leak at all. They're fantastic. I couldn't recommend these enough. They're treasures in my collection for sure. Another potted eyeshadow that I fell in love with is this Emotion Proof eye color from Tom Ford. My favorite shade is 10 Abyssinian. This is my perfect bronzy, deeper brown shade. I love using this all over the lid for a quick eyeshadow look. This also has a beautiful wearing time as well. I've never had any issues with it. It also has a very nice smooth and velvety texture. It's super easy to blend out and diffuse. This is just my perfect everyday go-to brown, and I'm so happy I have this in my collection. I also love using this as like an eyeshadow primer too for when I'm doing some really intense dark looks. This is a fantastic formula for layering too. So now I'm going to be getting into my favorite eyeshadow palettes. I have a few here. The first one I want to talk about is this Wet n Wild Color Icon My Glamour Squad palette. This one is pretty much a copy or a dupe of the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. I personally like this one a lot more than my Soft Glam. This one sits right next to it in my collection, and I always reach for this one over the Anastasia one. I do prefer the matte formulation in here a lot more. I find with the ABH formula, it's becoming a little bit more outdated personally. There's a lot of kickback, and I do find that there is a lot of wasted product. I find that it's like a very loosely pressed, very frothy matte texture. I feel like they run quite dry, whereas these ones feel very high quality. They feel like a more sheer version of the Melt Cosmetics shadows that I love so much. The shimmers in here are a little bit lackluster, but if you go in with a dampened brush, these perform beautifully. This is the eyeshadow palette I'm wearing on my eyes today, except for the shimmer. The shimmer is something else. I adore this palette, and I believe it's like $5. It's so worth the money. It's one of my favorite warm toned eyeshadow palettes. It's great. They killed it on this formula. The next palette I wanted to talk about, it's more brand new to my channel, but I have been loving this palette over the past 3 months consistently. This is the Nabla Side by Side Nude palette. I adore this one. I find it to be very similar to the Biba palette just because of its versatility, and I think you can create so many different neutral looks with this. This is a palette that's going to stand the test of time, as well as season changes, as well as changes in trends. You get cool tones, these beautiful rusty red neutrals, as well as these neutral browns and some golds and things like that. You just get everything you need in one palette that's quite compact. I also love the variety of textures in here. They have 3 of them in here. This really fun celestial shade is like a nice topper that makes your eyelids almost look wet in certain lightings. I find that I create really fun dimensional looks with this palette, and I highly recommend it. It ignites a lot of excitement within me. Another one that I loved over the course of this year is the Melt Cosmetics Rust palette. The original Rust stack was the first product I ever purchased from Melt Cosmetics, and that stack made me fall so in love with their brand. So this palette has a lot of nostalgia to me, and of course these are some of my most worn tones. I love these more fun rusty tones, but this side of the palette is what I get most use out of. These browns are so rich and luxurious, and they're so easy to work with. I love Melt's formula because it's super pigmented, but it's easy to blend, and their shadows always give you really intense, vibrant looks, no matter how neutral the color is. I adore most of the products they come out with, but this one was definitely a highlight of my year. I have 2 other palettes here that I want to talk about. I'll just talk about this one first. This one is a beautiful everyday go-to palette. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Desert Haze palette. This is my favorite out of her quads. The other ones I don't really get much use out of, or don't find to be completely worth the price, but this one is so beautiful. I find that there's a really good range of depth in here. This is definitely a different formula than her past palettes that I never really got along with. This texture is so rich and creamy and pigmented, but easy to blend and work with. This is a palette that I throw into my makeup bag wherever I'm going. I'm not going anywhere, but I did take this on a couple of little road trips here and there over the last couple months when we were allowed to kind of live a normal-ish type of life. Every time I pack a makeup bag, this is something that I immediately throw in there. It's compact, it's cute, and also very versatile. And the last eyeshadow palette, this one kind of surprised me, but I feel like I needed to add this in here. This is the Rare Beauty Confident Energy palette. This one contains some beautiful, fun shimmers in here, and every time I would use a palette like this little Charlotte Tilbury one, or if I just did an all-over matte look, I caught myself taking this out of my collection lots just to add on one of these fun shimmers, just to add some more dimension or to make more of an exciting look. My favorite colors in this palette are these three right here. This teal is stunning. I love lime greens so much, and this brown is obviously beautiful. It has a really nice red richness to it that looks very high-end. These are super beautiful, creamy, and impactful shimmers, and I surprisingly got a lot of use out of this. I didn't think I was going to like this as much as I do, but I find myself pulling this out all the time. These are beautiful, super high quality, and I love the positive names. Now for mascaras, I have three here to talk about. So my favorite more natural one, or my favorite bottom lash mascara of the year, has been the M Cosmetics Pick Me Up. This is my second tube of it. It also is the most satisfying thing to take off at the end of the day. This makes me really excited to wash my face at the end of the day because it is a tubing one, so you just need a little bit of water and then your eyelashes like come off in these perfect little tubes, and it's very satisfying for some reason. But this is a beautiful mascara. I find that it's very similar to the Glossy Lash Slick. The only difference is that this one is a lot more impactful. It has a lot more volume, and I think that this one actually lasts a lot better. I also prefer the brush on this one. I find that you can get a really fluffy lash look at the same time. You can get a super natural, almost tinted lash look, or you can build it up to a more lengthened and volumed state, but it still looks very natural. It's a great mascara. Love it to bits. Oh, also as a side note, I'm wearing this on my bottom lashes today, but the next mascara I'm going to be talking about is the one I'm wearing on my top lash, and I think this is the mascara I use the most. This is the Marc Jacobs At Lashed. I love this packaging. I think it's so chic and cool looking. But this mascara is beautiful. It's so quick to apply. I love the brush size. It's not so thick and intimidating, so you're able to really control the product and get into the tighter areas of your eyes to get into the little lashes more on the inner corner or on the lower lash line. I love the look of this one as well. You can build it up to a very heavy, thick, lengthened, beautiful eyelash state, or you can make it a little bit more everyday appropriate. This mascara is fantastic. It almost surprises me every time I use it. It makes my lashes look so fabulous, and I just can't get enough of it. I am due to repurchase one. I'm really pushing it with this one. Everything I love in a mascara, it's perfect, and I don't experience any crumbling at all, any smudging, no issue whatsoever. This is my favorite mascara of the year. And the last one I wanted to talk about is this one. It's the NARS Climax Extreme. This is the one if I want to make my natural lashes look like full lashes. This gives the most dramatic lash look out of any mascara I've ever tried. It's immediate volume, and I love how quick it is to apply too. It has a really wet consistency, but I can't believe how much volume it adds. This will give you the most intense lash look in a matter of seconds. It's fantastic. So these three mascaras are great. So this one is the most natural, this one's in the middle, and this is the most dramatic. Love them. So now we're moving on to my last category of today's video, and I'm going to be talking about my favorite lip products. So this year I fell in love with lip liners. I've never been a lip liner person in the past. I always thought they were kind of a waste of money, and I just never got use out of them until this year, and I have three formulas here that I love. So the first ones I'm going to be talking about are the MAC ones. These are the ones that introduced me to lip liners, and I love the way that it made my lips look. The two shades that I love and use the most were Oak and Strip Down. Oak is pretty much my natural lip color, so it's perfect for the days if I'm just wearing like a clear gloss or something a little bit more sheer and I want to define my lips a little bit more without giving my lips a very obvious lined look. Strip Down is a beautiful lighter toned brown that pulls a little bit more yellow, so I find that it's very flattering on my skin tone. So these are the lip liners that made me fall in love with lip lining. So the other formula that I am so in love with is the M Cosmetics Soft Blur Velvet Lip Liners. I know you guys definitely called this one, but I love these ones so much, especially for the days if I don't want a super intense defined lip. These give a very softened look, but you're still able to define them if you want to overline a little bit or add more definition or depth to your lips. I love these so much. I hope that they launch more shades. I want to see some reds and more deep browns and all the colors. I need every color in this formula. The 3 shades that I got the most use out of are Teddy, Kitten, and Fawn. Fawn is pretty much my natural lip color, and Kitten is a perfect, more warm, bronzy brown shade that I would use with a lot of my other favorite lip products I'm going to be talking about in a second. And Teddy is a beautiful light toned brown from my skin tone. Love these, can't get enough of them. I pretty much feature these ones in every single one of my videos. I think this is probably a product everyone guessed that was going to be in this video. And my last favorite lip liner discovery were the Nabla Close-Up Lip Shapers. These came out a couple months ago and they're fantastic. The 3 shades that I use the most are Nude Number 1, Nude Number 2, and Nude Number 4. Number 1 is a nice pinky shade. Number 2 is very similar to Strip Down, just a little bit more neutral of a brown, not so warm and yellow. And Number 4 is the perfect, more intense version, I'd say, of Kitten from M Cosmetics. Has that nice red bronzy shade. The shade Number 4 is my most used. I've sharpened that one lots. So now it's time to get into my favorite lip products. The first ones I want to talk about are the Tower 28 glosses. These are my favorite Tower 28 products in general. These are my 4 favorite glosses. Of course, the clear one, it's the most versatile out of all of them. This is the shade Chill. I also loved this one during the summer. This is the shade Spicy. It just adds a really fun red tone to any of your lips. It's fun to layer or wear on its own. And then they also came out with their Milky collection, and these are my 2 favorites out of that one, the shades Cashew and Oat. They're beautiful. These glosses are very unique. Their texture stands out to me so much. They're unlike any other gloss I've tried. There's no tackiness whatsoever. They truly feel like a jelly on the lips. They just feel like a very soft, liquidy lip oil that just stays in place. It doesn't bleed outside of your lip lines at all, and it has a very long lasting wear time as well. And I find when I'm wearing these, it almost feels like lip care as well. I feel like my lips are getting nourished at the same time. I never experience any cracking or anything when I'm wearing these. They're fantastic, and I feel like these are the products I mention the most. I never really try to pressure you into buying products, but these glosses are an exception. You need to try these. They're beautiful. My next favorites for something a little bit more impactful, these are the Yves Saint Laurent Tatouage Couture Velvet Lip Creams. These are my 2 favorite colors, the ones that I use the most. 208, which is a perfect blue red, and the shade I'm wearing on my lips right now, which is the shade 206. I think I use this shade the most. I have a lot of Instagram photos of me wearing this one, and it's my go-to shade when I want to feel very badass. They have all the different tones of red depending on what your tastes are. They have some that are a little bit more orange pulling, more pinky pulling, deeper or lighter. They came out with so many red options, which is great. There's just something about a luxurious red lipstick that makes you feel so much more badass. I don't know what it is, but these are great. I love the texture of this, and my favorite thing about this is the applicator, because it has a really interesting, unique shape to it. It almost looks like a angled eyeliner brush, so you're able to get a lot of control of the product, and you're able to get a super crisp lip line without needing a lip liner at all. These also last a very long time. Like throughout this video, my camera did die and I had to go eat lunch, and I didn't have to touch up my lips that much. I just added a few dots in the center and that's it. These are my all-time favorite red lipsticks. Next up, I have a new favorite nude lipstick. This is the Nabla Metropolitan lipstick. I love this one. This is my favorite to pair with MAC Strip Down. It's pretty much the same color, just a little softer and more neutral. It's not so yellow, but this is my favorite nude color. I find that it suits any look that I want. The texture is beautiful. It glides on so seamlessly, and I also love its texture. It has a nice sheen. It almost feels like a tinted lip balm with just a more intense payoff. I adore this lipstick. Moving on to the second last product of today's video. This is the Charlotte Tilbury Tinted Lip Balm in the shade Sexy Lips. I think this is my most used lip product of this year. Ever since this came into my collection, I haven't been satisfied with any other lipstick look unless if I add a touch of this on top of it. It could be the smallest amount where you can't even see it at all. It would just be like a little placebo thing. If this was just gracing my lips a little bit, I was happy. This lipstick has stained all of my face masks. I wear it even though no one else is seeing it. It just makes me so happy. I love this tone so much. It suits all of my more bronzy leaning looks. It has a very muted brownie red undertone that I just adore and can't get enough of. This texture is very beautiful too. It just feels very nourishing. I can't get enough of it. And now moving on to my last favorites of this video. These are the M Cosmetics Lip Cushion Tinted Lip Luminizers. These are my top 3 favorite shades. I know this one's kind of cheating. I've only used this like a couple of times, but I know and love this texture so much, so I'm just gonna add it in here. My 3 favorite shades are Venetian Rose, Magic Hour, and I guess Faded Clementine. Magic Hour is a very beautiful bright peach. Venetian Rose is a beautiful muted bronzy rose tone, and Faded Clementine, of course, is this gorgeous orange. Oh, these are fantastic. I love how these ones make your lips look. It almost glides over all of your lip lines to make your lips look a little bit more plump. And I also find that this is more like a stick gloss. It gives such an intense shine to your lips. It's stunning and I can't get enough of these. I hope that they launch more and more and more shades of them. They're stunning. But with that being said, those are all of my favorite products I have found over the course of this year. I really hope I didn't forget anything. If I did, I'm going to be very, very sad. But that concludes today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful and interesting. Let me know a couple of your favorites that you've discovered over the course of 2020. I would love to hear it in the comments down below. I'll make sure to link all of these products in the description down below as always, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Love you. Bye!